Plus. Well,
That's
I
awesome.
just got a notification. You might know this woman. It's a bit strange, Mom.
A lot of
What are you
things come
doing?
up on a lot of people come up on Google Plus, but they're not necessarily actually on Google Plus. Um,
Oh, okay. It might be just her
yeah,
email or whatever, right?
yeah, it's just her
Okay.
email, and they've linked her to an account, even though there's nothing there. Anyway, we're broadcasting now.
Hello?
Yay! Okay, guys. So tonight we are talking about Orcs and Crake, or Oryx and Crake. I'm not quite sure how to say the first one.
Oryx, I think
Um, Oryx,
that's fine.
yeah, by Margaret Atwood, and we are just the two of us for starters. Oh, look, that's the newer cover. That's nice too.
Oh, this is a library book, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, very
Yeah.
pretty. I love
And
this one.
despite,
This
yeah,
one's actually an older cover that Karina said she went and found specially for me, which she was very nice to do.
that's very nice.
There's a whole series of them in the back. So,
Oh,
and
cool.
the author's picture has also been done in that style, which I think is quite
Very
nice.
nice. Yeah, that's very
Meanwhile,
nice.
I must say, I think as an author picture goes, this one's quite deceptive about the story. This makes me feel like she's a very happy, fun-loving person.
Yeah,
And
no.
she may very well be, but she doesn't write that.
No. Yeah, she's dark and gloomy.
Yes, indeed. So I
Hmm.
found her image quite a laugh while I was constantly reading it. I kept turning to that front cover page and looking at and then looking at the book and going, it does not match.
Yeah.
Not that she has to, of course. Just I found the difference interesting.
Mm.
All right. Um, okay. Well, I think we're going to have a very interesting discussion tonight because I think we've got some different opinions about things.
Yes, I think that we might have opposite opinions, actually. Sort of, maybe. I
Very
don't know.
opposite opinions. I will see how far it goes.
Yeah.
Did you want to start off, Jamie, and do some general thoughts and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I've actually, this is my second Margaret Atwood book. I read The Handmaid's Tale, which I loved but left me scarred for life. Um, and this is my second one. I didn't actually know that, I didn't know anything about the book at all. All I knew was that we were going to read it, and so I've just picked it up and read it completely blind.
Mm.
And at first, I have to admit, I'm like, oh, what the fuck's going on? I don't know if I have the brain cells to understand or want to understand what is going on in this story. But I picked it up eventually, and I really liked it a lot. I didn't enjoy the story necessarily, but I like that her ideas and the way the story went and the overall message or messages of the book and things like that. And funnily enough, this is like, as far as I'm aware, this because there's three of these books. This
Mm.
series and then the Handmaid's Tale are her only dystopian novels. The rest of them aren't, apparently. I might have that wrong,
Oh,
actually, but
interesting. Because
yeah,
those two are the ones I hear the most about all the time. I don't know
yeah,
if that's because I'm always in the speculative fiction area, so dystopian is sort
maybe.
of the thing that fits our area. I don't know, but
Mm. Yeah, well, I think these are the only dystopian novels that she's written. And like in this book here, there's like a whole list of other books that she's written, and there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 books here. But
mm.
anyway, so I really liked it, but I'm the type of person that's extremely gloomy and miserable anyway, so I tend to like to read about gloomy and miserable things. It just seems to be
Mm.
something that I like to, like misery keeps its own company, that type of thing. So I really liked it, but
So
that's
maybe
me.
that actually, I actually think that's a really good point to point out because that might actually be why there's so much difference in our feels from this book because I felt utterly depressed the entire time I read this book.
Yeah.
To the point where my partner was constantly saying to me, "Why are you still reading that book? Stop reading the book. It's
Yeah.
just making you miserable." And I am generally a happy person, and I enjoy reading happy reads. And so I think that for me, that's why I can sort of look back on the book and see so many reasons why it is recognised as a fabulous book. But
Mm.
I will never, ever, ever feel the need to tell someone to read it because I know that I will be signing them up for a week of misery.
Yeah. No, it makes me miserable as well. Like my mood was just like plummeting as I'm getting further in this book, and like I was telling you earlier, like on Saturday when I finished it, I was just like my mood was just crap for the entire day until I could sort of like reset myself into a happier present.
My
Yeah.
partner had the misfortune of this afternoon, just after I finished the book, like we're talking 15 minutes after I finished the book, coming home with a new sound system for our living room that he had just gotten at a bargain price. And it was massive and it was ugly and I just did not like it at all. And he brought it into the house right when I'd finished this book. It was not a
She tell him to get right back out.
I was just like, what is this ugly shit doing in my house? Get it out of here. I hate it. I was crying. It was awful.
Oh, God, I was similar.
Mm.
I was just foul to people, especially my
So,
partner.
but you like that though?
Yes, I tend to be sort of I'm not a very talkative or a very outward person. I'm a very introverted type of person. I tend to think a lot, and I think the worst of things. I'm a massive pessimist, so
Mm.
I don't know. Just because of that, I like books like this. I can't read them back to back to back or anything like that because they tend to
I don't
fluctuate
think
my mood
no
much.
one should. No one
No,
should.
no, definitely not. But I just really like it. I just love books like that. Oh God, this is horrible. I can't remember her name. Sylvia Plath? Is that
Sylvia
it?
Plath, yeah,
The
yeah.
Bell Jar,
I haven't
her
read it.
only novel.
I think so.
Yeah,
I haven't read it, but I know who you're talking about.
yeah. Like I loved that book, but that just was horrible to read. Because it's like about
See,
suicide.
it's just so
Um,
interesting because I would describe myself the same way. Introverted, I don't need to talk to people a lot. Like,
mm,
I get sort of doses of talking to people and then I'm over it and I want to be home and stuff. But I totally do not, I'm very um, positive about things and my outlook about life and stuff. And so,
mm,
yeah, a totally different mind process and so totally different things to enjoy.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, very interesting. And
I
this is why I
know.
think, like, if I just went based on my feels, I would not have given this book as many stars as I did in the end.
Mm,
Oh, sorry, I've just got a message from Karina.
yeah. That's it.
Here we go. Although I probably could have talked because apparently she's watching.
That's all right. I think it's a bit of a lag, so that's okay. That's all
Yeah.
good. Um,
Yeah. So I've lost what I was going to say.
I
What
don't remember how we're different. I think how we're the same but perceive it differently. Was that what we were talking
Yeah,
about?
so we definitely perceive it differently, but yeah, I
Mm.
think I was trying to make a new point, but I probably didn't get far enough. So, anyway,
Sorry.
um, generally speaking, oh, it was the star rating. That was what it was. I still
Oh
gave
yeah.
it a reasonably high star rating. Well, I gave it 3 stars.
Mm.
If I just went based on my feels, like how it made me feel and my general enjoyment, I wouldn't have given it that many stars
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all. But
Hmm.
I can recognise that there are fantastic elements in the book, even if I just didn't enjoy it.
Yep. No, yeah, it's beautifully written. Like,
Mm.
I mean, excluding the subject matter, which is quite depressing, um,
Mm. And the
you can just
characters, which are
completely
quite
get.
depressing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you why, but I really hated Jimmy. I really
Oh
hated the
God,
main
yes.
character. God. Anyway, besides oh, her writing, it's just you could sit there and just lose yourself in her writing. Like you could just
So
completely and
very
totally
readable.
just zonk out for hours and just not even tell. Not
Yeah.
even just flawless
Yeah.
writer. She's a beautiful writer.
If I had uninterrupted time, I could have quite easily, and probably a happier subject matter, I could have quite happily just sat there and read for ages. She's very, very readable. But at the
Mm,
same time, in a way that doesn't make you feel sort of intimidated by it. Like, have you ever read A.S. Byatt?
no.
Okay.
I've never even heard of
Similar
it. Who is it
A.S. Byatt,
again?
A.S. Byatt. She writes, I'm pretty sure it's a she. She writes what I would call modern literature or modern classics.
Yeah.
And she is a heavy read, heavy read. but she's so intellectual in what she does, and she puts so much effort into everything she writes, and it's just wonderful. But oh, it's a hard slog to get through it. Whereas with Margaret, I felt like I got the same sort of feel. She obviously has done a lot of work, used a lot of imagination, all of those things, but totally readable.
Mm, mm. Yeah, no, that's. I
Yeah.
really like Margaret Atwood, and I would actually probably now, after having read this one, I would actually probably group her in one of my favorite authors now. Like I didn't think of reading another book by Margaret Atwood with The Handmaid's Tale just because I hadn't actually heard of her other books by anyone else. So I never really thought, oh, I just sort of thought to myself, oh, this must be her only good book, if that sort of makes sense. But
Mm.
now, like, I probably would actually enjoy almost all of her books now that
I
she
would
seems to be.
happily read another one if I
Mm.
could know that it wasn't going to depress me out.
Oh,
Even with The Handmaid's Tale, I want to read it because I hear so many good things about it. But that was the same with this one,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
It,
totally get it. But at the same time, I don't read books to be depressed.
well, to be honest with you, The Handmaid's Tale is better, but it
Mm.
depressed me more than this book. But that's because of the subject matter, I think. The subject matter in that one in particular is very damaging to my psyche. If just to be sort of weird about that. Hi, Laurie. Karina.
Hi.
Hey, how'd you go? You got in. That's great.
We'll see how it goes. We're having lots of issues.
Well, we know what happens to you if you get kicked out. So
Yeah.
Oh. We're just talking
Yeah.
about reading other Margaret Atwood because she's a pretty awesome writer. So
Hmm.
I've read this whole series and The Edible Woman and one other. But I read The Edible Woman like 10 years ago because my mum told me to, and got about halfway through it, moved out of home, and then picked it back up years and years later and went, wow, this is a really amazing book, and fell in love with her as an author, and then started reading the Mad Adams series.
Mm.
So was The Edible Woman dystopian as well, or was it something else?
No, it's before she started doing sort of sci-fi dystopian stuff. It's about a woman who is engaged and realizes that she just doesn't care about her life at all and isn't interested in what's going on with her, and basically just loses the plot.
That's okay. So definitely not dystopian, but it doesn't sound any happier. Oh dear. I want to read it. I really do, but maybe I need to wait a while, a couple of years, maybe 5.
I'm picking up the second book in this soon, by the way.
Oh no, I've already decided I'm not going ahead. I went and spoiled myself and read all of the spoilers straight after I finished because I was just like,
Did you?
yeah,
Oh.
I knew that because there was that glimmer of what's going to happen next, and I was like, if I don't go and do this now, I'm going to end up reading the book, and I don't want to end up reading the book because it's too much. So I went and spoiled it for myself, and I am definitely not feeling the desire to read the rest of this series, but I am interested enough to sort of research the other ones to see whether or not I could handle them.
No, that's fair enough.
I feel awful saying it. I'm sorry, Margaret Atwood, but you are so sad to read.
Don't feel bad.
I do feel like Oryx and Crake is a lot darker than the other two. Like, they're
Okay.
still pretty dark, but I think because Oryx and Crake dealt with a lot of their childhood more than the other two do, it gets to you a lot more than the other two do.
I just found it, like, okay, so there's basically with this story, there's 2 stories that are going on, but you can tell one is going to be really more of the overarching story, and the other one is sort of the we've got to get through this within this book, right? The flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I felt like both of them had no redeeming qualities to make them even possibly happy by the end. I just, flashbacking even between them, I was just like, even if there was some sort of respite between them, so that it wasn't quite so awful all the time, I probably would have been perfectly okay. But it was just this constant drag. But yeah, anyway, I need to stop harping on that.
No, it's okay. It was like that a little bit. It was very depressing, and like I found like the description of Oryx's childhood to be really horrible, the worst out of all of it, I think. And that's what really gets to me is that part. The rest of it, I don't really care. Like it doesn't really.
I don't know. See, to me, like I think she's very deliberately chosen not, at least in this book, not to write characters who I think are in any way likable.
Mm.
Like, I think at least that's why I like it, though.
You like it because you don't like anyone.
I think that making these characters who Crake is just this complete weirdo who doesn't connect with people and ends up destroying humanity. I think that, you know, we know people like that who just can't connect at all. And then people like Jimmy or Snowman who are just so amazingly selfish in everything that they do because they had something happen in their childhood that turned them into a dick.
Mm.
I think that that is really reflective of a lot of people. And Oryx, well, that's just tragic. There was no way she was coming out of that as a happy person.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't dispute the creation. I felt like they felt very real. I suppose that was this glut of the three of them together where I was just like, I need some sort of break in this. But I suppose I'm one of those. Yeah, I like happiness and I like a happy ending, and this was not going to have that. So.
Sort of. You don't know if it's going to be happy or not. Well, actually, you do because you read ahead. Well, you spoiled yourself, so I don't know if it's going to be happy.
No, I'm only talking about this book because when I went into it, I was deliberately reading this as a solo book because I knew, well, very early on, like we only had to get into a little bit of Jimmy's childhood, and I was already having crankiness, and my partner was like, "What's wrong with you?" Probably wouldn't be going on too far.
His mother takes the rakunk with her.
Sorry,
that kills. That? I always lose it when his mother, when she leaves and she takes his rakunk killer with him.
I know, right?
Well,
that's where I go, what's wrong with all of you? Why would you take his pet?
I find that part to be really sad too.
I think that's the thing too. Like, it's not even just the three main characters, really. It's actually almost everyone around them is just awful as well. Like,
No,
his father's partner wasn't. Ramona?
I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily bad. I think that he wasn't presented in a favourable light because we see him through Jimmy's eyes. And that's possibly part of the problem. We see the book through Jimmy's eyes. And Jimmy's not a nice person, and so he doesn't see niceness around him, really.
I really didn't like Jimmy, and I don't know if that was supposed to happen or not, to be honest, because right before I started reading this, I read a little bit just for curiosity's sake to see what it was of that fucking stupid manifesto of that guy in California who shot all those girls or shot people.
Oh God.
I read like just a little bit, and it's just like him describing his childhood of when he was elementary school and how he's this fucking entitled little selfish brat. And I started this book, and that just transcribed directly into Jimmy when I was reading the book. Like, I just fucking saw these similarities between these two kids, and I'm just like, you're both psycho. And so I just didn't like him from the start because I kept thinking of that kid, and then thinking that Jimmy was like, the way he was describing his own childhood was exactly similar to the way that stupid manifesto went at the beginning. So it's just stupid.
Are you talking like even from when he was like a preteen, or are we talking from like Crake time onwards that you started to have problems?
Oh, from like the very beginning when he was like a kid. I don't know why. I don't think I was supposed to draw that sort of hate towards him so early on, but I just did because unfortunately I was reading it right after I started reading that little thing. I didn't read the whole thing or anything like that. I just a little bit in the beginning just to see what it was.
Yeah, it was enough.
Yeah, so unfortunately it made me hate him more.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to look at that guy's manifesto. I was just like, okay, you've done crazy stuff. I'm just no.
I was just for curiosity's sake looking at it one night before bed. I was looking on my iPhone and read a little bit of it, and I was like, ugh, horrible. And then I didn't read it after that.
I got enough from the media that around that I consumed about it that I was like, I don't need to go actually read it. I don't need to give this boy any more attention than he's tried to demand.
No, that's fair enough. Anyway, that's why I hate Jimmy.
Karina, did you feel the same way about Jimmy?
I felt really sorry for him at first, but I think that reading the rest of the books, it makes you hate him just that little bit more because it really shows what a selfish prick he really was. Because the second book, one of his girlfriends is the narrator, and she does talk about her relationship with him a little bit. And then in the third book, we go more into her and into Amanda. And they talk about Jimmy and what he was like before. And you really get to see just how self-involved he was. And it really makes you just go, man, this guy, he needs to get a soul.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I think I was about the same in the beginning. I felt... Oh, sorry, Karina.
So I didn't hate him to begin with, but the further into it that I got and the more that I reread it, the more that I go, my God, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
And yet I still love
it. Hate all the characters but love the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree that it's possible, but I don't know. I think the problem is that for me, like, I didn't hate Jimmy straight away, and I had some hope for him, but everything around him was so negative that I immediately felt depressed in the book. So there was that. But then as soon as I think Crake came in and the activities that he was getting up to and he was talking about girls and stuff, I was just like, dude, you're having every single negative trait you could possibly have associated with you. You have clearly been designed for me to dislike you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I find it very hard when, even from within the narrator's head, I can't even relate to them. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I think for me the relatable part was just the relation between like what's going on in the book and like what society is like in general, not necessarily between like the characters, but what's happening and then what's you know, like you can see that happening and in like one variation of our worlds like in the future, and that's scary and fascinating to me.
I came to the conclusion that that was kind of the point of what Margaret Atwood was trying to do here, that it had very little, like, as much as her characters are very fleshed out, I felt like it didn't really have a lot to do with the characters at all, and it was all a commentary on our lifestyle choices and where we're possibly headed. Because almost every other dystopian I've read, while it may have some of these heralding things, she took every shit thing that's in the world and made it worse and then kill us all. And I felt like that was the point.
Yeah, and it's like almost like Crake is like the genius. It's like what, just one example, like the kids that go into school and shoot people. Like it's like that's the future version of Crake. Like when you take that mindset and make them a genius, and then in the future world, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to destroy everyone. You know what I mean? Sort of like
he's going to have the funding to do it.
Yeah, he's going to have the brain power and the ability to do something like that. So, I don't know. That might very well be our future at some point. When you've got fanatical people that think the human race needs to die. So,
I think a lot of the genetic stuff was quite interesting. I don't know about you guys, but did anyone else almost vomit when they described the what was the chicken things?
Oh God, yes. The chicken knobs or nobos or chicken noobs or something like that.
Yeah, when he got introduced to the creatures, I actually was gagging.
I was like upset because like I'm like this close to being a vegetarian. Like I haven't quite made that threshold just yet, and the only reason why is because I like meat. But I just think it's horrible. I just think it's absolutely horrible what we do to animals to get them to our dinner table, and like I just need a little bit more of the thinking process going on. I'm going to be a vegetarian before too long, I think. Ugh. And to hear
See,
about that just made my heart bleed.
I am vegetarian, and reading through that, I think I got more fascinated in what they'd all look like and all of that rather than being disgusted by it, because I already don't eat meat at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think that I was able to detach from it a little bit more.
That's interesting. I would have expected a more strong response like I had, but that you went the opposite way entirely is very interesting.
Mm.
But I think I do that every day anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm definitely not a vegetarian. I wish I could, but I've accepted the fact that it's not going to happen. And
I wish I could.
And I instead try to be or do what I can to make sure that I eat meat that is humanely.
I at least try to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, but I
Green tea, please.
I can absolutely see. You got a bit of a delivery service going on.
Sorry, are you talking to me?
Yes, I was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had my mic muted. Did you hear my little green tea thing?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry.
I think you might have muted it right after. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. That was my partner.
No, you're right. Yeah, I feel like it. I think what's most horrifying about this is that it actually feels like it could really, really happen.
Oh yeah, I think it's actually really very plausible for it to happen. I mean, it would be very. I mean, it happens now. Like the compounds versus they call it the mobiles and then the plebeians. There was like sort of like 3 stages of civilization where people were held, sort of like.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's sort of happens now. Like it's not. I mean, not to that extent, obviously, but it could quite easily go down that path within 100 years or so. You know.
Well, we get
all
like
smart rich people from everyone else.
we get the gated housing areas and things along those lines already happening in spaces where they have security guards and fences all around them and things like that. So it's not that hard to take another step forward and put the workplace in the middle of it all.
Yeah, and I don't know if military bases really fall under that or not, but you have people that live on military bases and completely within a gated community, but that's not necessarily community per se.
I used to actually be one of those. My dad was in the Air Force, but it doesn't actually happen as much anymore because even when they have housing within the military space now, they tend to section it off outside of the gated area, whereas when I was living there, you actually, to get to our house, if you were coming to visit me, you actually had to go to the gate and get signed in or have someone come and meet you and things like that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's not very hard to think that that's going to not happen, and you know, corporations like are massive today, and they will probably continue to be that way, and so there's no reason not to expect them to do things like this eventually when we're able to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
scary.
I mean, to them,
that's the scary part, is that this is a very plausible future.
Oh, I think that like it was in this, it'll become a selling point. The area that you can live when you work for us is this beautiful area, and you get all of these facilities because you live here with us, and look how protected you are, and people will go for that.
Yeah,
companies already do that now.
Yeah, we do.
So, it's so scary.
Hello, wasn't there an episode on The Simpsons where they did that?
Yeah.
Because The Simpsons is real life. Who said that?
And like, I mean, I don't know as to the actual plausibility of being able to create something that can kill a human being and the entire human race within a day. But I don't know if that's actually. You think so?
I totally believe that one, but then I might have read too many things like Outbreak and stuff.
or these gene splicing things where you can make hybrids of animals and stuff. Like, I don't know if that's actually going to be able to eventuate or anything like that. But if it is, or if it could be, you could definitely see this book as being a future for us, which is horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Well, they already justify what they do in farming around vegetables and things in terms of the mass production and what produces behind that. Have you guys seen a lot of the videos now, which is the backlash to the whole organically grown aspect in terms of the fact that there's studies that are showing that food that you get from these mass-produced farms where they grow tomatoes on these ridiculously high vines in a small compact area and everything, and they show that the nutrients and everything in them are really not all that different, and there's no real disadvantage to eating them, and that if we didn't farm things this way, that we actually wouldn't be able to feed the people that actually exist in our world now, like right this second now. If we stopped all of our farming that way and got rid of and only farmed organically, we would not be able to feed Australia.
I didn't say that, but that seems plausible.
Well, that's a lot of what they're complaining about now in terms of like the GMOs and Monsanto and all of those sorts of things is around that sort of farming. So they're already doing what they're talking about in these books with vegetables, which is scary.
It is scary. I mean, it's scary to you know, it seems like, because I don't know what kind of wealth you guys come from, but I'm, you know, lower middle class or whatever, as I think majority of us might be. I don't know. Not trying to say anything, but I just, yeah, well, like, I know that it's hard for me to actually even remember things like that because you don't see it. You don't, you know, you buy your food at the grocery store, you come home, you go to work. You don't really have to worry about things like that at all, ever. Barely ever have I had to worry about like that stuff in my whole life. So it's hard to remember that, you know, there's a lot of people in this world and there's only so much food to go around. So, you know, it's sad. It makes me sad. God. Margaret Atwood, I hate you.
We're also sad. I'm going to have nasty dreams tonight.
I know, right? And those damn pigs. God. Oh, funny thing. Pigoons? Is that what it is?
I always said pigoons.
Sorry?
I always said pigoons.
Pigoons? I just started playing, like, I play online games, and I just started playing WildStar, which is this new MMO that's been released recently. I don't know if you two know what it is or not, but
No, go ahead.
Well, there's this part. As I was reading this book, I get to this part in the game where it's these little alien dudes. It's a sci-fi sort of game. These little alien dudes are like all about the corporations and trying to cover things up, and you're doing quests and stuff like that. And there's fucking pigs running around that are getting like genetically modified and stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? The one time I read a book about genetically modified pigs, I'm playing a game about genetically modified pigs. I mean, is the universe trying to tell me something or what? So I just thought that was funny.
Apparently bacon is in such demand at the moment that we are actually having shortages of pigs. And if there's anything that's going to be genetically modified first out of the animal environment, I would guess that it's going to be pigs.
Probably. Yeah.
That's my guess. Predictions by Melanie.
So what do you think, Karina?
I keep coming back to the other books. I'm really sorry. It gets way worse. Because you find, Jamie, are you going to read the rest of them?
I am going to read the rest of them, sorry. But that's okay. You can spoil a little bit for me. It doesn't matter. I don't mind. It's cool.
Well, pigs now are well regarded as being very intelligent creatures. And you find out in the third book that the pigoons are ridiculously intelligent. They're very organized, and they have ritual and custom, and they are quite angry about the idea of us killing and eating them. And they go from being this really horrifying, mutilated creature to being something that you feel really sorry for.
Aww.
And it's just, like, that was the most depressing part of the third book for me. Finding out that I've spent 3 books hating these horrible creatures who seem to be hell-bent on, you know, hunting down whoever. only to find out that they're only doing what was done to them.
Mm.
It's really sad.
It is.
I must
Yeah.
admit, I actually kind of predicted that after the scene with Jimmy in the guardhouse and how they rounded him up and that. I was like, these pigoons are considerably smarter than I think anybody's given them credit for, and I don't blame him for wanting to get him.
Yeah. Kill the bastard.
I was actually not. I really actually wouldn't have minded if they killed him, except for the fact that I needed to get to the end of his flashbacks.
Mm. But it goes back to
my love for Jimmy runs deep.
Anyway.
What were you going to say? Gets back to?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that it goes back to like, I wish I didn't enjoy meat as much as I did, because I would love to be a vegetarian and just say, "Not fuck you all, fuck you world, I don't need to eat. You need to eat tortured and horrible."
You need
Sorry.
to come and work on Edgar's mission with me for a day.
What's that?
Edgar's Mission is a rescue group here in Melbourne, well, Victoria really, and they take in all farm animals and pretty much any kind of animals, and sometimes they try to rehome them, but they also keep a lot of them because some of them aren't rehomable, and basically the idea is that once they're rescued, there's no chance that they'll be eaten. So sheep, alpaca, horse, cow, pigs, whatever it is they're taken in, they don't have to work anymore, they're just treated as pets.
Oh, that's good. I've got 2 pets. I got 2 cats. They're my babies, which is ridiculous. I know.
They have a lot of cats and they have a lot of chickens and goats and all sorts of things. Yeah, but the only problem is that basically your first time there for visiting, your job is to pick up poo. There's a lot of poo. I discovered that actually picking up goat poo and horse poo and pig poo is not that bad.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually quite, as long as they're out in the field and stuff, it's actually quite dry and compact and not smelly at all. It's just, you just pick it up and chuck it in the bucket with a hand or whatever, and it's easy to do. But I don't ever want to have to pick up cow poo, or pretty much.
Not something I was planning on doing.
I'm just saying, like, if you ever go to a place like that where you're volunteering and there's different jobs and one of them they say is cow poo, get out of it. Whatever you can do, run.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to do that, luckily, but it was, not pleasant. But, yeah, the rest of it was hard work, but it was fine. I never realised that farmers actually walked around and picked up all the poo. I thought that unless they were in a barn, that they would just leave it there and it would just go back into the earth, but apparently not.
Yes.
They sell it, don't they, as fertilizer?
That you can, they don't. They just chuck. They've got like these. They deliberately designed the place so that the fences have like gaps in between them, which are about a metre and a half apart. And all you do is you pick up the poo into a bucket and chuck it down into those gaps. So it still gets into the earth, but it's not kept in the field area where they're actually in. So
yeah, fair enough.
No one's going to step.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah, interesting experience. But I got to feed baby goats, so that was fun.
Yeah.
The bottles.
Are goats? This is a stupid, fucking ignorant question. Are goats male sheep, or
no?
Rams are male sheep. Rams?
Yeah, rams and ewes. Yeah, I can't say it. Ewes. That's it. It's spelled E-W-E. Yeah, ewes. So that ewes are the females, rams are the males. Goats are their own species.
Okay, so goats are just female and male goats. There's nothing special about between. Okay.
What are they?
I'm sure they have a name.
It's Billy. Is it Billy goat? It's a male? I don't know. I feel like maybe that's a specific type of goat. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're their own thing. They're their own thing. The same way alpacas are their own thing and all of that sort of stuff.
Fair enough. I'm stupid. Anyway.
That's why they have goat's milk, because goat's milk wouldn't come from boy sheep.
That's true. That is true. God, see, just ignorant. Just ignorant. Speaking of animals, those damn woolvogs, like, that would be what would kill me if I ever survived the plague. Like, the
Oh,
little, nice little puppy little things that attack you and kill you, throw you off guard, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I would no way be one of the
No,
survivors in this world.
Yeah.
sorry.
I said I would in no way be a survivor in this world.
Neither. I'd just die of tetanus or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have even survived the world that was there before the whole apocalypse thing
Oh
happened.
yeah.
Yeah. Probably not.
It's such a messy world, and it's so, I don't know how to describe it, but I just know that someone who thinks positively and all of that sort of jazz. Then again, I don't know, would you call Oryx a positive thinker or a practical thinker?
Oryx? I don't think I actually read enough about Oryx to be able to tell you what she was like. She just sort of, like, I don't know if this is right or not, but I sort of got the impression that Oryx was almost not real. Like, she was sort of like, as Jimmy saw her.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that, in that more of what we saw of her was through Jimmy's eyes. But I meant from, like, the conflicting moments when she was like, just let it go, what does it matter, why do you need to know this? Those sorts of things I think was more her than what he would say otherwise.
I would say probably practical, as in that's what a survivor would say. You know,
Yeah.
someone that's learned to survive what she's gone through would probably have to have that sort of blasé look on life. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to make it through her childhood or teenagehood or whatever. If that makes sense. So I guess
I'd say,
practical.
yeah, same. Because there's that scene where she's talking about he wants to go back and hurt the people who did something to her. And she says, how is it any different than what I let you do to me? And I think that that's just the way that she learnt to accept sex. That was just, it's something that people do and it doesn't matter who it's with. And that's just her practical survival, her need to survive, and just accepting that.
But I think that was also the moment when I realised that she definitely didn't love Jimmy the way she loved him. Not that she could love him the same way he loved her, because his love was not real love. But
no, he was obsessed.
Yeah, that she saw herself sleeping with him not as something necessarily for herself, but something she needed to do for him. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I agree. And I thought it was quite. Because when he first saw Oryx in that movie, she was obviously a little girl, like 8, I think she was supposed to be. How old was he supposed to be? Was he like
He was about 14 or something.
14? Does anyone else find that incredibly odd for a 14-year-old to be attracted to an 8-year-old, or is that normal?
I don't think he was necessarily attracted to her at that point. I felt like the description was more saying that he felt like she understood him, even though it was a delusional feeling that he got from her. But even if it was love, it would still be delusional. It's not real because she doesn't see him, but it was the way her eyes looked at the screen and he felt like she was seeing straight into him.
Okay,
And could
that
understand
makes
him.
sense. Yeah,
I think it was her breaking the fourth wall, which isn't something he was used to seeing, and seeing it from a child on top of everything else, it just sort of got to him.
No, that's fair
Apparently
enough.
it got to Crake as well.
Apparently what?
Apparently it got to Crake as well, so...
Yeah, because he kept it too.
They're very similar in ways, Crake and Jimmy. I just think that Crake had the benefit of having a ridiculously high IQ. Benefit less.
Yeah. I actually am... I almost want to read more books so that I can understand Crake more than anything else. Like, as much as I disliked everybody, but Crake as well, I felt like what I really wanted to understand was more Crake's motivations and Crake's... actually, not his motivations. I understand that he was just messed up and that he had all of this awful shit that happened to him when he was a child with his parents and everything. But but also like just how he actually did it all. Was he actually with Crake because he liked her, or was he just sort of, was it a competitive thing with Jimmy? Was it him using her to get to Jimmy in some way? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I didn't understand it either. I don't think it was him trying to use her to get to Jimmy, because I actually don't. I may be wrong, but from the way I read it, like I think that Craig found out about Jimmy and Oryx sleeping together, and that's the reason why he slit her throat and killed himself. Like, I don't think that he actually envisioned that happening at the end. Although, I'm still very perplexed as to why he felt the need to slit her throat and kill himself. Like, I don't understand why, other than... I don't know why, actually.
That made me think the complete reverse, that he actually had brought her in deliberately to get Jimmy to do what he wanted him to do, which was to kill him.
But I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
You're right.
Which one? Who? Mel?
I'm fine. I'm done. Go. Whoever wants to go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I was just going to say that. Well, because it seemed almost paramount that Crake wanted Jimmy to take care of the Crakers, because that was I think, like, having finally finalized and being able to get the Crakers to where he wanted to allowed Crake to be able to release the plague, or whatever you want to call it. So I would almost think that Crake wouldn't do anything to purposely make Jimmy angry or upset, because Jimmy then might just abandon the Crakers. Like, I don't think, you know what I mean? So I just find that last thing to be so confusing. Sorry, say that again.
He wouldn't have left them because Oryx wouldn't have wanted him to.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because he got the command not just from Crake, but from Oryx as well. So
yeah,
true. Which makes me think that why would Oryx think that anything would have happened to her if she didn't know that the drug was in the pills?
But see, I think that's the thing. While I do think that it is a possibility, this is just a possible idea, that Crake was using Oryx to manipulate Jimmy. I don't think that Oryx was necessarily clueless about that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't know, it's all confusing. I don't understand. I just want to know why Crake had to kill her and him. I don't understand. Why?
I still don't get it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what intrigues me, though. Did he kill her purely because of jealousy, or did he kill her to motivate Jimmy?
Yeah.
See, I'm sort of thinking that I don't really think that Craig's idea was that he was going to necessarily survive all of this. And in fact, he almost, I think, wanted to not be around so that he couldn't be blamed for it. He needed to go as soon as everything had been put into place so that no one could come and get him and try and stop it, or try and get him to build a vaccine or something. To make it an effective and flawless plan, he needed to be gone. And he maybe felt like he couldn't do it himself, and so this was his plan for making sure that happened.
I also think that if he had been there, the Crakers would have viewed him as God, and not having religion was very important to him. And yes, he became like God to them, incidentally, because Jimmy invented this law for them. But I think that because he had such this huge desire not to be a god, and for them not to have a god, had he been there, it would have happened.
And perhaps that's the same goes then for Oryx as well, because she was seen as a bit godlike to them too.
That's fair too. Although, did you guys get the impression though that they had already been vaccinated from it? Because they didn't seem to get sick. And he was just drinking in a bar somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think that they were able to get it. I think that they were vaccinated, but that was again why he needed Jimmy to kill them, because they would die from the disease.
So sad.
And I think that Corinne is right. There's just so many things that are left open for this sort of debate. But there's never going to be any answer behind them. This is one of the reasons why I'm not particularly interested in reading the future books as well, because as far as I can tell, I'm not going to get the answers I want anyway. So
I didn't enjoy the other two books as much because it doesn't revisit Oryx and Crake. It just goes on with Jimmy and some other characters, and that was really disappointing. Like, I still really enjoyed them as books, but not going back to Oryx and Crake was disappointing.
Yeah, because like I think that that's the biggest question of all for me is why the fuck did he have to kill her and then want to die? Like I don't know
but,
why.
but this fits in with the whole Margaret Atwood thing in that she does try to have these very realistic, not prettied up situations. And the fact of the matter is that you don't always get answers in life.
Yeah, that's true. Same thing happens in The Handmaid's Tale too. Something happens and you don't
God,
really
I'm
ever find
so
out the
not
truth.
reading this book now.
It's not nothing big like this. It's just like a small sort of little thing. Is to you think.
Yeah,
Oh,
but you don't understand. I'm a blue and I need answers, and that's part of what gives me a satisfying conclusion to a book. And
I think
yeah,
that's what going on with Mistborn, because I feel like the first Mistborn book was enough for me, and I don't need more answers.
Yeah, Mistborn is pretty big monster.
I think that if Mistborn had been written and had finished at the first book, I would be okay because it definitely left me at a point where I was quite happy. But because there were more books, I needed to go on and read them because there was things that were going to happen, and I was curious as to what might happen. Whereas if he'd stopped there and there was no more, I would have been okay because it was finished enough.
Happily ever after. I would have been happy with it. Now I'm a quarter of the way through this book that I'm never going to finish.
Which book's this? Which book are you quarter way through?
The second Mistborn book.
Oh, right. Yeah,
shit.
a lot of people seem to really struggle with the second one, and I really liked it. I'm just it's
enjoyment. Like, I really enjoy his writing. I don't know. I've had enough.
Yeah, no, it's massive. It's an absolutely massive undertaking to finish those 3 books. Like I finished them. I suggested them, and they're my favorite books of all time. But I finished those books over a course of like 3 years. Like trying to get through them, 6 months or something is a little bit sort of big.
Yeah. Well, I thought 2 months per book for those people who didn't want to do the other books in between would be okay. Clearly, I was wrong.
No, it's yeah. I still love them, and obviously you like it too. But
I really, really enjoy them. I'm loving it. I think that they're fantastic, and the only reason I'm not on to the third one now is because each other books keep coming up that I want to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I read Tigana when Sword and Laser read it, so I know that Guy Gavriel Kay is awesome. So.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that book yet. I've ordered it from the library, but I haven't gotten it yet. Hopefully I get it in 2 weeks. God. Because it's 2 weeks. This one we're reading in 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, hang out for 2 weeks. Good
God,
luck.
it's not enough time.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling the pressure sometimes. My partner keeps telling me off because he's like, you realise you're reading to a schedule all the time. How is that enjoyable? And I'm like, it pushes me to read a bit more.
Have you started reading it yet? Either of you?
Have we had what?
Have you guys started reading it yet?
Which one? The third book?
The Lions of Alcyon or whatever it's called.
I literally finished this at 6:30. The bookmark's in here, but I haven't actually started.
Okay, fair enough.
I post on Goodreads and I went, oh, she only gave it 3.
Who gave it 3?
You.
Oh, this one. Yeah, I feel really bad because you gave this to me, and I felt really awesome. I really wanted to love it so much because look, to be honest, the only reason I finished it was because I had to finish it for you.
Oh.
Because at the heart, it was about when I was a third of the way through, and I was just like, I really can't do this book, and I was like, I have to. Karina gave it to me, and she loves it, and she even got a special copy for me, and the only reason I finished it was for you, so I'm sorry, I wanted to love it for you, I really did.
It's okay, at least you tried.
Well, I loved it, so...
Yeah.
Yay.
Favorite book.
What did you say, Karina?
Yay, I got one fan.
Yeah, you do. Actually, there's a couple of people who've said they've been enjoying the book, so don't worry. It's don't take it personally. It's just I tend to like happily crafters.
Really dark. I can understand it.
Oh, look, I appreciate her as a writer anyway. If nothing else, I really did like her as a writer. The same thing as what you were saying about Brandon Sanderson in terms of the fact that you really like him as a writer, but you don't necessarily want to read this book. It's the same way I feel about Margaret Atwood. I think she is a brilliant writer. She's just so goddamn depressing. So,
I like,
you know... Go, Jamie.
oh, I was just going to say that I like authors like her because they're like necessary to point out the ridiculousness of our lifestyle sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with her. I've got no problems with the book existing. I may not run around recommending it just purely because I find it hard to recommend sad books. But if someone said to me, I want to read something like about this sort of stuff, I'd be like, this is the one you want. Very good read.
Yes.
Ignore my 3 stars. Anyway. So are you reading the new one, Karina?
Not yet. I'm not sure if I will. I just got Women of Letters, which is a collection of letters from a whole bunch of Australian people like Megan Washington and why can't I think of anyone's name?
Because you're in front of people and you need to.
My brain's just falling apart.
As soon as you go to bed, you'll remember.
But it's a whole collection of letters from people on the topic of women, and I've been looking forward to it for ages. It was compiled by Marie Carty, and I found it at Dimmicks the other day, and I was like, whoa, I've never seen it anywhere. I thought I was going to have to order it, and now I really want to read that now that I've finished Oryx and Crake again.
Oh,
so I don't know if I'm going to be doing any other book club books this month.
To be honest, this is a pretty fat book, so...
Yeah.
Like, let's see, how many pages is it? This version is 635 pages.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I'm actually glad that I'm now 3 books ahead on my reads, and I'm really happy because after this I need to read the 3rd Mistborn book. And I'm like, I've got 2 weeks to finish this one and then another 2 weeks to finish the 3rd Mistborn book.
Oh, God. Yeah, I haven't even... I mean, I've read the 3rd book, obviously, multiple times, but I haven't reread it yet in the last 3 years or so, so... Yeah, I'm going to have to start that.
This is what I mean about the pressure. Like, my partner's like, why do you read to this schedule like this? How can it be enjoyable? I'm like, sometimes it's not, but sometimes it's really good because I'm reading so many good books now. I used to just read cheapy romance books that I'd download on my Kindle so no one would ever know that I have them, and now I'm reading good quality books, and it's good.
That's what my brother is, a collection of Larissa Ione novels that I would never own because I would never buy them because people would see them, but my Kindle's full.
Full, absolutely. That's exactly what my Kindle's like. It's I used to, because I do a lot of demo stuff on iPad and that, and sometimes some teachers would ask to see the Kindle aspect because they wouldn't understand how to use it, so I have to be very careful, and I've now actually got 2 separate iPads, a work one and a personal one, so I can have the Kindle stuff there, but without any content into your books.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing, seriously, like when you open mine up, the first books on there, especially if you go to the cloud area, which is always the important part to show them because that's the bit they don't understand, is all of these lovely chests.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, nothing quite like that to show Catholic school teachers.
Wow. Sexy.
Even if they read them, I don't need to know about it. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to know what my colleagues read, to be honest.
I get excited when they read something like the books we read sometimes for the Land Down Under group, but the vaginal fantasy ones, I'm like, I don't need to know if you read them. I've got my friends that I talk about them with.
Yeah. Although everyone was talking about Fault in Our Stars the other day, and all I could think about was having to read it and then not attending the hangout for it because I cried the whole time I read it. And that was my whole point. made me sad.
Oh. Have you guys been to see the movie yet?
No, I'm
No.
not going to.
Really?
I'm getting to that mindset stage where I'm sort of like, I'm not sure whether I need to, because apparently it's very close and very similar. I'm just going to bawl.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I
I
do
don't.
watch it, it'll be on DVD,
Mm.
not in public.
I don't really particularly like books like that, so I'm probably not going to read it or see the movie. So.
I find that very interesting, because you said you enjoyed this book, but now this one you wouldn't get into. It's a different kind of sad.
It's dark.
Yeah, I like dark and morbid things, but I don't really like
Emotional
sad girl thing. Like,
Is
I think
it
this
just a
one's
bit too real?
No, I just don't find it real at all, actually. I just like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, what's that stupid fucking book? Oh, about the girl who has cancer and so they have another baby so that they can
My
like
sister's keeper.
Yeah.
yes, I fucking hate that book. And it's anything that's like that, I just can't stand those books. Not because I find them sad or anything, but just because it's just like I don't see the point of reading them. They just don't seem entertaining to me. I don't know.
I haven't
That's
actually
probably
watched
really
the
rude.
movie, but I watched the
I do
movie only of that one.
agree. Sorry.
All right, go, Karina.
I do actually agree. I feel like those authors are really emotionally manipulative,
Mm.
and that's all they live for, emotionally scarring people into all over their books,
Mm.
which I don't really enjoy, but they just upset me.
Mm.
I'd rather read Margaret Atwood.
Yeah.
I suppose to me, I mean, I lost my niece when she was 11 to leukemia, and a lot of what was in that book felt very, very real to me in The Fault of Our Stars. And so to me, I didn't feel like it was manipulative. I felt like it was telling a real story as to how this sort of thing actually does usually play out.
Mm.
But
That's
I can understand why other people feel differently.
well, like with me, like I've never lost anyone. Like I've never yet gone through a death of anyone that I've known really well or a relative. So I guess that might have a massive sort of why maybe I don't connect with books like that at all because I don't know. Maybe I just think subconsciously that no one's going to die. I don't know. So
I
that
I
might
think
be
the
why.
thing is, I think with a book like that, like I don't read them very often. This one I only read because it had a lot of people telling me that it was really, really awesome, and so I could give it a go. It's not like I go out and look for these kind of books. Like I said, I haven't read My Sister's Keeper or any of those other ones, so this is the one basically I've read, and it just rang quite true for me. That was also.
Mm.
But I recently watched a video about someone really, really pulling it to pieces and saying how terrible it was, like really pulling it to pieces. It was like an 8-minute video of someone tearing it apart. I was just like, whoa, honey, you really don't like this book.
I don't understand people who do that. Why did you finish it if you hated it so much?
Well, she was actually going on about specifically John Green books in particular focus because.
Oh, he's a jerk when it comes to writing.
I'm not. I would not. I've only read 2 of his books, and that's as far as I'm going to go because I don't feel like his writing is necessarily appealing to me. And I think after The Fault of Our Stars, I'm like, that's enough. I'm happy with what I've read, and that's all I need. I'm not feeling fanatical or anything on those lines. But and so I understand where she was coming from that side of things, but she then ripped in particular to this book, and I felt like felt like she was talking about it without having any experience to really talk about it. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, everybody's experience is different, so what do I really know?
Speaking of John Green, I really like John Green. People don't like him, and I don't know why. Like, I watched the Vlog Brothers on YouTube, and I really like him and his brother, and I think they're fucking really entertaining, and I don't understand why people don't like him.
I don't understand it either. I mean, outside of him as an author, I find the 2 of them just fantastic in terms of their mindset and stuff. So.
Yeah.
They're so funny and upbeat for someone who writes such depressing books.
Yeah.
Yep.
I haven't read. I don't know any of the books by them. Oh, isn't Looking for Alaska supposed to be really good? Is that what it is?
That's one that they always talk about. Paper Towns is another one that they always go on about. I've read Paper Towns as well. From what I understand, they're very similar in how they're sort of done.
Yep.
So you probably pick up any of them and get a feel, and if you like it, like really like it, go and read the rest of them. If you're like, yeah, that was good, but I don't feel like I need more of the same, then leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good analysis.
Well, I don't really like cancer stories, but I think Looking for Alaska would be good, I think, from what I've heard.
Yeah. I haven't read that one. I didn't mind Paper Towns, but they're very... this is the interesting thing that's the difference between the first books I think he wrote and this and The Fault in Our Stars is that all of his other ones seem to me to be rather masculine focused.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they're teenage boys.
For Alaska, I think right after it came out, actually. And I don't remember the story particularly well, if that says anything, but I remember being very... because my best friend at the time and we read it together, I remember both of us being really upset over it and having to have, like, deep conversations afterwards to deal with our emotional crises.
I'm actually very curious about that now. Because on one hand, I'm like, if it got you to have deep discussions, then I think that's a really good thing. But then if it made you feel traumatized, then that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed that in my life at the time.
Like something that's really important about all YA, and especially the kind of YA that John Green writes, is it's written for teenagers to read to help them to come to terms with themselves. It's not written for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because, I mean, I love a good portion of children's literature and all of that, but not all of it is really actually intended for us.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I think Harry Potter is, though. I don't care what anybody says, but Harry Potter was everybody.
Totally I've got like little like.
Yeah. I couldn't get over that post that was recently done by that guy who or girl who was going on about the fact that we should all stop reading YA and why are adults reading it and people who read Harry Potter when they're adults are just stupid and all this sort of stuff, and I was just like, dude, seriously, you obviously haven't read Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Judgmental cow.
Yeah. Because I've got no problems if people are reading YA when they're adults, if they so choose to. If that's their choice, that's their thing. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I actually read a really interesting response to her article. I might find it and send it to you guys because it was really funny. Like, it responded to her with what are assumed to be YA cliches. And it's hilarious. Hang on, let's see if I can find it.
I think I did see that, yes. It was like a whole post about it all. And it was awesome. It was like a whole story about what they would do if they met for a meeting, and oh, that was hilarious.
What she would do if she met her in a cemetery or something, and how, you know, it would just divulge into vampires and werewolves and going on adventures and losing their virginity and YA garbage.
It was written by a YA author too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was awesome. I actually was half expecting it to be Maureen Johnson.
There it is.
Isn't it? I think it is good.
I'll read it.
Because it deserves a reread.
It's hilarious. It's very clever.
Read it after.
Anyway, I'm not going to read it now.
Yeah, I started to, and I'm like, nah, that's gonna be rude. I'm just gonna say read now.
It's quite long.
Tangents.
Yeah, well, we're kind of off topic, but I don't know if anybody's got anything else to discuss from the book, actually. We've talked about the characters, we've talked about their motivations, we've talked about the world, well, at least the food.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
only
I
other,
find it. Sorry, go
sorry,
ahead. You go.
the only other thing, having discussed it with other people who've read it, is the names that she gives to things. Someone I discussed it with said that they felt like they were overly childish. Like, yes, it's supposed to deal with the dumbing down of society, but they found it very distracting. Did either of you feel like that?
Well, like what, like the Pagoons?
Like
Or?
a new you
No,
and
the names of the companies and things like that and the products.
yeah.
Um,
I actually thought it was quite cleverly done. I thought that I personally think that that's exactly what people would be doing because they already do things like that.
yeah, I agree. I thought the same thing. I thought that that's probably what we would do because we tend to, like for example, like I work in accounting and accounting and law firm and I work on both sides and when someone makes a new company, they almost always without fail make the company's name like a fun little shorty name to do with them or something in their lives or something to do with what they're doing with the company. So if you're having things being patented by people or companies being named by people, they're always probably going to do the same thing as well. Make them into short, cute little names that's going to stick to people and be remembered and be easily bought, if that makes sense.
And
I
add
guess.
that into the fact that as people develop more companies, more names get taken and patented, so now you've got to get creative with the names that you're coming up with.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me at least. I thought that seemed very realistic.
Mm. I also found that to the distracting element, I did find sometimes I'd spend time trying to figure it out. Like the I knew you one, I didn't get for ages. It was quite embarrassing. He was actually leaving the company, so I finally figured out. I knew it was something.
I sort of went back through and went, oh, that's what she
I think part of the problem for me is that I read a lot of fantasy, so you kind of get to the point where you don't pay too much attention on how to say things.
Yeah, you just accept stupid names.
Yeah. Like I breeze over them now more often than not. I'm like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna try to pronounce it, and so I just go blah blah as I come across it each and every time, and then like lo and behold, like a day after I'm done reading, I don't even know what it is. But yeah, you just get tired of trying to pronounce everything after a while.
Oh, well, see, I don't even pronounce it because for me, when I'm reading, everything's visual, so it's just a collection of letters to me.
Yeah. One thing I found that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, like I find like dystopia type of stuff to be fascinating because I always think to myself, what would I do in this situation? Like, what would I do if it was the perfect world, and what would I do if I was in the middle of like adrenaline pumping? Like, I'd probably be stupid and fall head over, my feet and then break my neck or something, But so when he's going back into the compounds and he's gone into the house. Why wouldn't you stay in the fucking house? Like, he's like gone out and seen this Pagoon or whatever. Like, why then wouldn't he like find a house to hole up in? I guess rather than trying to run away. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why he's not staying the night in the house. Why is he trying to find a different location to sleep? I don't understand that.
I don't think he realised quite how aggressive and smart the Pagoons had gotten.
No, that's probably fair enough. But I got the impression that he was leaving the house because he didn't want to sleep in the house. But I didn't know why. Why wouldn't you want to sleep in the house? That to me seems like that would be the best shelter for you because it's made for you as a human being.
The only reason I had for that was that he was rather creeped out about being in the house at the very beginning when he first went in. Like, he was like...
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think that because of everything that happened, he really didn't want to be part of normal society anymore. And the less he was around it, the more that he felt... Well, he immediately assumed he was the only person left living. Why would he want to go back to that?
No, that's probably fair enough. That's fair enough.
The other aspect, too, I think, to remember is that as much as he was able to plan things out, he was very instinctual as well. He didn't really plan very far ahead. He wasn't trying to help his living space to be improved. He was just getting by. And so add that into his actions when he's moving around and trying to find supplies. I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just that when I was reading that, I was like, that whole entire scene could have been prevented if he had just stayed in the bloody house. Like, I find things like that to be a little bit irritating when I'm reading or watching entertainment. It's like, there's not a need for any of this to be happening because if they just hadn't left or,
Rational choices.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the aspect of the fact that he's basically an alcoholic, and his only real motivation for going out while he was trying to say it was to get a gun, it really was that he wanted alcohol.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true. Oh God, I would die within the first few days of trying to survive in the wild on my own. I just wouldn't know the first thing. I wouldn't know the first thing.
Well, to be fair to yourself and to myself, because I would be the same, if not already dead, not many others seem to survive either, so...
That's true. That's true. When I was, funny little sort of story, when I was like a teenager and I started discovering dystopia stuff for the first time, like this whole underworld stuff and all those movies started coming out, like 2014 or whatever that movie was, 2012 or whatever, it absolutely terrified me as a teenager. Like it seemed like overnight I had discovered that the end of the world could possibly happen, and like I started suffering like mad anxiety from it and everything, from this notion of like, oh God, the world's gonna die. But it doesn't affect me anymore now. But God, that's a scary thing to confront when you're like just going into the world.
Yes, it is. That's very tricky.
Mm.
I don't know. I must admit, I don't think dystopian is usually my choice. Like, I've enjoyed quite a few really good dystopian ones. Wool is a very good example of that. But I can't say that it's something I've been drawn to as a topic.
See, I get really drawn to it. Probably because of my interactions with it when I was younger.
I agree. I'm actually trying to think of anything outside of Wool and this one that I've actually read that is truly post-apocalyptic. Because even, like, there's a lot of YA ones that people have been reading, like, for vaginal fantasy and stuff, and pretty much all of them I've avoided. I haven't actually ended up reading. Like, is it The Daughter of Smoke and Bone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of, I don't know if that's really dystopian or
not. What's it called? The Cressley Cole one. With the towers and all that.
Yeah, the towers one. That's the one I didn't read as well. I didn't read that one either. Was that Cressley Cole or was it at the same time as Cressley Cole?
No, that was... I'm pretty sure it was Cressley Cole. You'd think I would know, but I'm still reading this.
I thought Cressley Cole was all like...
I don't like the writing, but I like the story.
Yeah.
I feel like Cressley Cole's actually more of the sexual books.
Usually.
Yeah. I really can't remember. I'm actually going to...
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through... Yeah, it's Cressley Cole.
Oh, there you go.
Well, a dystopia that I really liked is by Susan E. called Angel's Fall, I think is what it is. That's really good if you guys want to check one out. That's like not morbid or anything like that, but really fascinating. She's written the vampire books too. God. Oh, it's too late in the day. What are they called?
It is 9:30.
I'm gonna have to look it up now. Oh God, one good thing I'm on the computer.
Is it the Poison Princess one, which is the one with the towers and everything?
Yeah, that's Cressley Cole.
Right. Oh, yep.
I honestly did not think that was Cressley Cole. I had no idea that we were reading two authors of the same author for the books that month.
I think that was the theme.
Yeah, no, that makes sense now because at the time I didn't pay any attention to it because I think it was the second book of the series, and I paid attention to the other one. I knew I could be wrong. Anyway, I only read the first one.
By the way, I tell a lie. I was thinking of a different author. But anyway, Susan E. Angel Fall. That's a really, really, really good book if you want to read a dystopia that you might like.
The other one that I really liked was it's sort of dystopian but set in the past, which is weird. It was Never Let Me Go, which was made into a movie a couple of years ago. That really, it dealt with some really current stuff that I can't say anything without revealing plot, and it's really frustrating. Because the whole book is just what's going on until you get to the point where they finally say it. But yeah, it's sort of dystopian in more of a what would society be like if we had pursued certain avenues. Yeah, it's really hard to describe without getting into it.
Because one thing I thought about this book is that it had a pretty broad reach in terms of what it displayed, in terms of what our society would get like. It covered third world countries, it covered medical advancement, it covered food issues. It covered so much within this one book. I thought it was quite incredible from that respect. Everyone's just searching through books right now, aren't they?
I know, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out which series it was that we read the second book of. We'd read the first one and then we followed through and did the second one as the second choice at some point. I thought it was the Poison Princess series.
I think it was the other Cressley Cole. Shadow's Claim.
I remember because I didn't do it.
No, we read Shadow's Claim at the same time as Poison Princess. Yeah. That's why I didn't put the two together. Oh no, it was the Poison Princess series. Here it is. It's the Arcane Chronicles #2. And we read it at the same time as the other Boylan Girl, and those were the two that didn't connect together. And I was like, that is a weird mix.
I didn't even realise we read the other Arcana Chronicle book.
Yeah, we did. It was
my own free will.
Well, it was a second choice, so it wasn't the main choice. It was the alt, because everybody was really interested and loved the series. But I never read the first one, so because by that point I'd given up reading the alts. I'm reading too many for different book clubs, so I gave up reading alts for vaginal fantasy.
I've given up reading vaginal fantasy most of the time.
Sometimes I don't read them because, like, the books from last month, like, didn't interest me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that I'm actually really upset I missed the last Vaginal Fantasy Hangout, because I will say this for the book that was the main pick that month. It was awful, but oh my god, the Hangout would have been epic. I haven't watched it yet, but it must have been epic, because that book was that awful that picking it apart would have been just so much fun. So yeah, and it was a quick read, even though it was a bad read. I read it in an afternoon, so it did. Whereas like this one here is a full commitment, but to me this one's equivalent to reading for Sword and Laser, which always ranks higher. And I'm really annoyed with the Sword and Laser picks that this year have done so far. So
what's the pick this month for it?
I can't remember, but I was just like, no, because the problem is I think they've been picking far too masculine books this year so far.
Yeah.
Last year, they had a really good mix. They actually had more female authors than males, and even the male authors didn't feel like overly masculine. They were just a really nice mix. But the book they're reading this month is called Promise of Blood.
Oh.
Yeah, and so the books they've read, apart from that one, is The Martian, which is a solo narration of a male basically trapped on Mars. They've read A Dance of Cloaks, which is just, it sounds like the same book as what they're reading this month. It's basically one of those thief assassin type books. They read Altered Carbon, which I actually tried because my library had it, and as the concept go, it was reasonable, but again, it was this super, super masculine narrator.
Yeah.
They've read The Wizard of Earthsea, which was the only female author they've read this year so far, and I've already read it. So
God.
Yeah.
I hate Ursula Le Guin.
I mean, the problem is, again, with this book is, even though it's a female author, it's still a very masculine book.
Yeah.
And then the first book of the year was the Einstein Intersection, which was written in, wait, it's a really, really old one. Come on, load up. It
Fun
was
fact.
written in, yeah?
I was just going to say that I think this is one of the few books that Margaret Atwood that has written that has had male characters as the lead, as the only
Oh,
leads, pretty much.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
nice thing. Well, I must admit, all of the other covers that are in the back of this book have pretty much got females in them, so that doesn't surprise me too much. Oh, no, so the Einstein Intersection wasn't written that long ago, but again, it sounded just like this massively masculine read, and I've got no problems with them having some masculine reads. It's just that in 6 months, it's felt like every single one of them has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like, where's all the wonderful books that they read last year, like A Natural History of Dragons and, what was that one? Ancillary Justice and all of these ones who had fantastic different types of characters. And oh my gosh, Kimberly's here with us. Kim!
Hello. I know you guys are probably almost finished. I was listening for a couple of minutes while I was starting everything up, but I figured I may as well join for a minute.
But you finished it?
Yeah, I finished it now. Yeah, my weekend plans didn't really work out as I expected, where I'd have 4 days to read it and then started it last night.
Oh, goodness.
Yep.
So did you have anything you wanted to share, ask, that sort of thing?
No. I just come to listen to the rest. I started listening to the beginning. I had it on, but it was distracting me too much, and I couldn't read. So I heard the beginning of you and.
Did you like it?
I did. Yes, I did.
I'm definitely outvoted on this book.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's a reason
Yes, I
why.
think, growing up, I tended to read things like Anne Rice and things like that, where they're not always the happiest books and things like that. So I tend to like to read that sort of thing. It's not always something you want to read all the time, but yeah. Every now and then.
I never got into Anne Rice. I never liked Anne Rice, and that just explains it perfectly.
I hate Anne Rice.
Yeah, it is very dark
I really
and
don't like
broody.
Anne Rice.
I
don't read anything of hers anymore.
I was gonna say I don't like Anne Rice as a person anymore, pretty much, because she's like crazy now. But I loved her books when I was a teenager. She was great books. Oh God, I love those books too. I grew up with Anne Rice and Robert Jordan and oh God, and Laurel K. Hamilton. Oh Jesus, those books are crazy. Anyway.
I love The Mummy. She wrote one called The Mummy. I love the characters in that, but she never wrote another one. It's like at the end it says like to be continued, and she never wrote another one.
Who, Anne Rice?
Yeah.
See, that's enough to make me really angry with an author.
It's called The Mummy or Ramses the Damned. Yeah, and she never wrote another one of them.
I think that's actually the one that I tried reading, or one of the ones that I tried a couple of Anne Rice, but I think that's one of the ones I actually had on my shelf for ages and never really read it.
I don't remember. I read like lots of her books, and I never really remembered most of them. I just remember really, really, really liking the side off books like Mimnock the Devil and like Pandora and like Arnaud or Armand. Like those little side books that kind of go off of the main story. Like I love those books the most, more than the actual main story books, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like in Queen of the Damned, I like the two little, the redheads, the girls story in it. I can't really remember the rest of the entire thing. That's all I can remember.
Yeah, I can't remember much either, but yeah. That was a good book. The movie was horrible though.
Yeah.
They did a movie?
Yes.
Was it just Queen of the Damned in that, or was there a bit of vampire Lestat in there? Just looking at it.
Lestat was in it, but he wasn't blonde. He was brunette in the movie. Remember?
Yeah, he was.
Which is just wrong.
Had Lestat, Lestat becoming like a rock god sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't
This
remember
is
if that was actually in Queen of the Damned. Yeah.
This is the movie that singer was doing when she died in that plane crash.
Yeah, Aaliyah, was it?
Aaliyah? Maya? Aaliyah?
Mhm.
Yeah, something like that.
Hmm.
Anyway.
Well, I grew up reading Anne McCaffrey and David Eddings, so we can see clearly where my taste lies.
That's probably why we like what we like and we're so different.
It's quite possible. We probably were shaped quite a lot by it when we were growing up, and so therefore reactions, we have them as they are.
There you go.
Makes a lot of sense. I don't feel bad though, because I still like those books. So.
Yeah, I think some books I go back to and read after years and years of not reading them, and I kind of go, oh, this isn't as good as I remember it being. That's really disappointing. It's like, try not to do that too often. Yeah, I'll just live with it because I'm afraid I'm going to read it again and not like it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that. I had that experience last year because for Sword and Laser we read the first of the Dragon Riders books from Anne McCaffrey, and while I didn't actually reread it, we still had a hangout to talk about it, and I discovered quite how sexist it was compared to the later books in the series, and I was just like, wow, I had no idea that I'd been reading this supremely sexist book so many times. And well, I just have to keep reminding myself she wrote it in a different time.
That's right. She got better, right?
The series itself got considerably better over a period of time, and even that book, while it was considerably sexist during it, you could see that she was trying to lead them out of that sexism, even in that one. But a lot of people wouldn't let that fly, and I'm like, well, she's got to establish a world. We're looking at a series here that's like 13 plus books. Give us some growth to have here.
Yeah.
So, Kim, are you reading the next Vaginal Fantasy?
Yeah. That's on my next to-do list, and finishing the second Mistborn book. I still haven't finished that. So I had to stop to read this one, which is really annoying because I'm like, I'm back into it. I have to stop reading it now. Do this one. But yeah, I'm pretty much flying through it when I pick it up, so it won't take me much longer. I'll probably finish it by the end of the week.
This one's as big as the second Mistborn book. Oh, wait, probably the first one.
Well, I'll have to start reading. Well, I'll just have to be very, very diligent next week. Start it next week and make sure I read every day. So, yeah.
Oh, God, not enough time. Ugh.
Well,
No.
the problem I find for myself as a reader is that I could actually read this book quite easily in 2 or 3 days if I really focused. But I find it really hard to focus like that until I get really buried into the book, or there's a time limit that's really ticking on my mum. And so, like, if a book like this, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm going to need the 2 weeks because it'll take me that long to get that far that I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just end up reading so much on Sunday nights. I'm just like, I've got to catch up. I've got to finish this. I've got to finish. But considering this is about 400 pages, I know there's a lot of blank pages in the paperback version. But considering I started reading it last night, that's not too bad.
It just goes to show you can read it really fast when you really sit down and have the drive to do it. But when you're looking at a 600 plus page book with 2 weeks to read it, you're like, oh God, I really hope I make that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When I read the first Mistborn, as I got into it, I was able to read it in 3 or 4 days. But the second one, I just can't. It's been weeks, and I just haven't touched it.
It's a hard book to sort of get through if you don't have, like, a couple days to just read. Like, when you get into it, it's okay. But if you put it down, then it's really hard to pick back up.
That's what I found as well. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wasn't not liking it. It's just that when I put it down, I wouldn't think about it for a little while. But a lot of people were saying in the Hangout that they felt like it really lagged and that, and I was like, no, I don't feel like it's lagging. It just doesn't have the drive to make me pick it up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But hopefully you guys can make it, because you're not the only ones that are still stuck on the second book, because Kirsten is as well. Well, we know you'll be there,
She's got
Jamie.
a good excuse.
She does.
What?
She does. Jamie's going to make it for sure because you've already read the books. But Kirsten, she actually isn't reading anything else. She's just trying to get this series done so she can be there for the third Hangout. But with the baby, she's trying to get really hard.
Oh, I feel so bad now for like suggesting it because it's such a massive underhaul to like read all 3 books, but they're so good.
Remember, we all voted on it, so you know it wasn't just that you won and it got picked because you picked it. It's because everybody voted and this is what they wanted to read. I am, however, going to suggest if we do this again next year that we pick something that's not quite so heavy.
Not so many. Yeah. Shorter books.
Yeah.
Not so involved. Those are good books to read on your own. Although with us reading book club books all the time, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to read a book on my own ever again. Because like I've got so many books I've got to read for the book clubs that I'm not going to have time anymore to read anything else.
See, what you're going to do is do what I do and schedule them to be Land Down Under reads, because that's how come I got through this one.
Yes, thank you.
I
making me reread something of mine.
Sorry. But I was voted on. It's not like I sort of arbitrarily picked it or anything, but...
Well, I was really happy to reread it after reading all these other books and never finishing them.
Well,
it was
that
nice
was my original thought with Land Down Under is we'd probably have a mix of books we'd already read and new books and things like that. But we seem to be doing now books that I haven't read, and so I'm struggling between all my other book clubs to keep up. I haven't read a book just purely for myself in quite a while, apart from a few, like sometimes I'll chuck in a light romance just because I need a break. and that's about it. But those are like a one-day read, that's it.
Mm.
So I know what you mean, because I started after... When was it? Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I started The Gate to Women's Country, because I was like, this is it. I want to read one book myself. I want to read it. I want to find out what it's like, because it's been on my list for ages, like years. And it's actually on my shelf. That's part of the reason I've actually got a copy of it. And I didn't get very far before I had to actually give it up and start reading something else.
I've tried to read Gates to Women Country like so many times because I have it on it's an actual book that I own, and I just can't get into that book. Who wrote that?
That's Sherry Tepper.
Oh, that's right. I've been trying to read that book for so long, and I just never can get into it.
Yeah, I've read a few Sherry Tepper, so I've also got Grass waiting for me to read as well. So.
Oh, I love that book. I read that book. Did I recommend that book to you? Or no, I said that it was a good book when you said you wanted to read it. That book is amazing. I read that book when I was in uni, back home in the States, for like a literature class or something like that, and it's just the most random book in the world, and I was just like, this is fantastic. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. I actually almost picked up that one instead of Gate to Women's Country, but I chose that one because it's shorter. And I thought I might have a hope in hell of actually finishing it. But I got sick and I didn't have any time left. So.
Yeah, that's right.
But I've read Raising the Stones and a couple other Sherry Teppers, so I was like, I've got to read more, because I've actually sent a tweet to Sword and Laser and said, why haven't you guys read any Tepper? What's going on?
Hey, maybe they'll pick Grass and then you can read it.
That would be fantastic, because I'm just sick and tired of... I mean, I know that the next month's pick is going to be a female because they've picked Octavia Butler. And the vote is based on they've got like 5 of her books up. So we're going to have a female author finally. Yay. But I'm sort of like, that's not enough. You guys have got to do females to the end of the year to make it up to me.
Oh, did anyone see, I was going to post it and I forgot that Hugh Howey's written a new book.
Really?
Fun.
Yes, Hugh Howey, he's written another one. that's set in the world. It's set in the same world.
So it's not
So
Sand.
it's about.
It's something else.
Sorry.
Because there's one that came out a few months ago, which was called Sand. It's not that one.
I think it might be that one. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realise it was set in the same world.
It's like further on, when I think more people have come out of the silos. I think.
Oh, well, I might
I'm
have
not
to read
quite
that
sure,
now.
but yeah, it's further on down the track, and I think it does mention something about silos. So it's when they're out living on the land again.
I still
so
haven't
that's
finished Wool yet.
Oh, finish it! It's so good.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so good, and I was reading it, and when I was reading that is when about the time I actually joined the Land Under Book Club, and I saw you guys were reading it together, and you were doing all three of them like a week after I had started Wool, so I knew I wasn't ever going to make it. But because now I've got so many book obligations, I can't actually get back to the book and read it because I don't have time. So yeah, it's sitting there halfway read.
Because we're talking about that, I'm going to tell you guys what I'm planning for the group in terms of our monthly picks. So Mistborn is next month, and the month after that we've got our classic, which, good news, Journey to the Centre of the Earth is the pick, and it's actually one of the shorter ones that was on the list, so yay, we've got a fairly short pick for August. Now September, I was going to put day 2 of the Kingkiller Chronicle. I decided to push that out because everybody's been complaining about how intense they've found it, all the reading. So I'm going to push that to October. And then in September, what I thought we'd do is we'd do a couple of graphic novels, comics.
I'm reading this right now. Can you see it?
Yes. So that's one of the ones.
Sandman Volume 2.
Yeah, that's number 2. So I was going to suggest. Yeah, I've got the first one as well. So what I thought I'd suggest we do is in September, I was going to originally say let's read these 2 comics. So there's Sandman, which has been very popular, and then the other one that some people have expressed interest in is the Mouse Guard series.
Okay.
So what I thought,
are we saying like volume 1s or like a couple volumes?
I picked these up from the library today.
Are you kidding?
So it's I picked up fall 1152 and winter 1152. Because I don't really know much about. I've read like the first comic that was free on Comixology, and I went, oh, they have them. Oh, they have both of them. Oh, in hardcover. I think I might just grab them.
You probably have the right one then, because I think the one I posted is the one that there's a free sample of the first section, the first serial of the first issue. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's fall 1152.
Yes.
Yep.
I know. Yep. I'm just looking because I know that I've actually got it up on the thing. Because I figured it out. It took me a while. Yeah, 1152 is the first one. 1152. I was going to say doing a couple, but I think that's too much to ask for people financially as well as commitments if we want to have a light month. So what I thought we'd do is we'd pick 2, but only do the first issues, and we'll have 2 separate hangouts in case people don't want to discuss both in one hangout, because if someone decides to only read Sandman and miss Mouse Guard, it's hard for them to have to wait for us to talk about one and then not do the other. So I thought we'd have 2 short hangouts in consecutive weeks rather than trying to do one together. Because like last time when we did the Wool one and we did the 3 books, it was an intense hangout. That just kept going.
Very, very long, yeah.
Yeah, and it just kept going on and on and on. And I'd probably, I think most people would prefer if we did 2 short ones, and people can pick and choose which one they come to, if both great, whatever. And then that way we're only reading comics for that month, and so hopefully that doesn't take much time for people and we can read other things.
So is Mouse Guard one word? Yep, that sounds good.
Yeah.
No, Mouse Guard is 2 words.
Why can't I spell mouse? How do you spell mouse?
Oh my God. Jamie, here's the link.
I almost did that in the Mickey Mouse thing.
Okay, thanks. Good Lord.
There we go.
It's way late, because I'm like Moose Guard. Moose Guard is what I put on there. God, I'm retarded. Mouse Guard.
I took a while to figure it out which one was the right one to go for first, so that's why I linked it very specifically in the comments thing. So cool.
Okay, so
now that we know what we're doing for August, I'll schedule the September stuff, and I feel like I'm planning very far in advance, but sometimes I think it helps for us because the other groups are kind of late in telling us what things are coming up. So
yeah, I wish that
I like to know what's coming up.
Tell us Yeah, I wish Fashion Fantasy would tell us what the books were for the month coming more further in advance, so that way I can actually, because by the time I learn what they are, I can't even like order the books from Book Depository most of the time because
Yeah.
they get to me too late and then I can't read them. So, and I
Yeah,
usually
they
don't
I
really
agree.
need to do
get
like
books anyway.
yeah, they
Sorry.
really need to do like the month already have the next month set out in that hangout
Yeah,
before that one, and then
yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
do it from
Because
there. Yeah.
Sword and Lace is not great, but they usually give us something like a week to a week and a half of notice, and that's usually enough time to make sure you get it in time. But the problem with Vaginal Fantasy is I don't think Felicia thinks about international at all.
Mm.
Mm.
No, that's probably fair enough. Which it is. I mean, come on, 10,000 people. We're from everywhere.
No, no, we're definitely international, but and she knows it because she announces all of different places. But I suppose to be fair, the majority of countries other than America don't have the bad access Australia does. Like Britain and
Oh,
Canada, and they don't have anywhere near the problems we have with getting books. So.
no, that's true. And the amount of money. God, I can remember when I came to Australia to live in 2009, and I came in 2008 to visit. And one of my favorite things to do ever since I've been able to read pretty much is to like, save up money and then go to the bookstore and then buy like $100 worth of books, which back
Mm,
home is like a massive stack of books because books are only like $6 or $7 for little paperbacks.
yeah.
And I remember, and whenever I travel, that's like one of the favorite things to do is go to an airport or a mall or something like that. Go into the bookshops, the first place I go, and then I pick up a bunch of books. And I went into a shopping center in Melbourne, one of the bigger ones down there, and went into a bookstore, did my usual routine and thing, and then I look at the book and it's like this fucking little paperback book was like $30, and I'm just like, what the fuck? They're like, I'm not paying $30 for a book. So I was so sad. I put it back on the shelf and then I left, and I was like, I cannot believe that is so much money, even with the conversion rate. That's way overpriced. So,
I was reading an article the other day, which was it was 3 different industry experts in Australia talking about what's going on with bookstores in Australia, and it simply
mm,
comes back to the fact that we are not competitive with pricing, and with
no,
the online world, why would people buy books in Australia when they cost this much? I don't
no,
like I don't like supporting Amazon, but in the end, the Book Depository delivers to me free at a reasonable price for each book.
yeah,
What am I
and I
going
mean,
to do?
yeah, and back home, I've got like 500 books. I've got bookshelves full of books. I spent heaps of money on it. I've bought probably in Australia at bookshops probably 5 books in the past 5 years that I've been here because I can't afford to buy books here. The only place I can buy them from is Book Depository or a second hand now. I can't
Well,
get
not
them
only
anywhere
that,
else.
my other problem is that Australian bookstores tend to be really light in genre fiction.
Mm, that
Like
too.
they give
Yeah.
massive walls to the general literature section, and then you get like 2 little bitty shelves for sci-fi and fantasy, and
Yeah.
you're like, dude, this is why I used to love the Borders. I used to go in when I lived in Sydney. I used to go to Macquarie Centre, and they had this huge Borders up the top, which was this massive big bookstore. Loved it, and you'd go in there, and the sci-fi and fantasy section was double-sided. I would say something like 10 meters or more long.
Mm,
Oh, it was awesome.
yeah. It's
Yeah, when
always back.
they had borders in Adelaide, that was just awesome. I went up there because I wanted a reference book, and getting a reference book off the internet just you can't see what's in there. You want to know what's in there before you buy it. And so I went up there and I sat down on the floor because the section I wanted was near the bottom, and I just looked through several books, and that was great. And I actually bought something, even though it probably wasn't the cheapest book in the world, but I was there. I got to see what was in it. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to, if they don't have it at the library, I basically won't buy a copy because I can't see it.
Yeah.
And that's a real pain now because we've only got Dymocks left in the city, some
Yeah.
independent second-hand bookstores, and that's it, really. Oh, there's, oh yeah, the Book Boys went out of business. They had a big store, but that's all gone now. So there's just Dymocks left. And there's,
That's
yeah, their
how I
selection isn't that great.
Yeah. I'm
If you
exactly
want
the
to go
same
for a
situation.
popular book, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like the Dymocks that's in the city of Melbourne's actually a reasonable size. It's not as good as Borders was, but even then, like especially in the genre fiction area, you're pretty much only going to get what's popular or classic. That's it. They don't have like a really good variety, and so they obviously don't have people stocking their shelves who know the area at all.
Yeah.
Well, it's really sad.
Dymocks, it is packed, Dymocks in Adelaide is packed full of books, but they obviously have to choose the most popular ones.
Yeah.
So,
and that's, I think that is really where they fall down. Like, every time I've gone to a bookstore in America, which admittedly American bookstores aren't doing that great anymore either, but they're still doing better than Australian ones are. And every time I've gone into them, the range is just huge. Like, I didn't care how much they cost. I quite happily just buy whatever I wanted because they had what I wanted. If I had a bookstore to go to with a good range, I would happily shop there regardless of the price. It's not just a price issue for me. But they don't even have the range, and so I have to order them. And if I have to order them, well, why wouldn't I just order them online?
Yeah.
Price.
Sorry, Karina?
For half the price.
Yeah, exactly.
Less.
Well, I've stopped even bothering looking now, unless I've got a specifically good reason to look, i.e. it's a vaginal fantasy book and I can't get it at the library and I really want to read it, and if I order it from overseas I probably won't get it on time. That's the only reason I go to look for a book in the city anymore.
Yeah.
The
only place in Australia online is Booktopia. I have gotten a couple of books from them. That's
there's
about the only place that has decent prices. Oh, yeah, that's really weird sometimes, though.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't found anything. Yeah.
Is Booktopia doing free shipping yet?
It says if you go from booko.com.au, you get free shipping.
Okay.
But I think you get free shipping anyway because the last book I ordered, I got free shipping on anyway, and I didn't go straight through booko.com.au.
All right.
So
I'll start checking them first.
Sorry.
BOCO or Booko? How do I spell book? God.
I'll put it in. Because it basically is like a Booko just has all the book sites listed. So you type in the book you want, choose the one, and it'll bring you all the prices from all the websites that are on its database.
Oh my God! Why have I not known about this?
And they've just upgraded the website, so it looks really good. And you can make wish lists
Lovely.
with price alerts as well.
Soon.
Yeah, so there's price alerts as well, so you can pick a book, put it in your wish list, or set a price alert. So if you're not willing to pay $30 for it and you're willing to pay $20 for it, you can put it in there and they email you when it gets checked and it becomes $20. Yeah, it's great.
Can you actually tell it how much to let you know?
Yes. I don't know how it works, like how often it checks the database for those things, but it does. Yeah, you can set an alert for if it's this amount or under, it will email you and
That's
say,
the mouse card one.
Yeah.
That's awesome because one of the things I do like about Book Depository is that it does give me those notices. Yeah, that's the right one, the mouse guard. One of the things I like about Book Depository is it does that, but it'll give me a notice if it's just 20 cents cheaper. And I'm like, I don't care if it's 20 cents cheaper.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the if you want the hardcover, it's not that much more. Where's the link for the hardcover one? Well, it's a bit more, but considering
Comparing
how much hardcovers usually cost. Oops.
Dude, oh my God, you're like the best person ever. Thank you so much for linking that website. I usually bring up
it's wonderful.
Websites trying to compare prices.
But this is just good because if it's only a matter of a couple of dollars, I'll order from Booktopia rather than ordering from Book Depository. I want to support an Australian business. But
I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the dispatch will come into play. Like looking at this one for Mouse Guard, if I was ordering for next month, 10 to 15 days wouldn't be good enough for me.
Mm. I ordered something off Booktopia and they can't get it in. They're like, do you want to keep it on your list for another 60 days? I'm like, well, I can't get it anywhere else, so yeah, just leave it there. Well, I could get it somewhere much more expensive. I'm like, I'll just leave it. It's not a book that I'm really in a hurry to get, so I'm like, well, okay, just if it comes in, I get it.
Yeah, that works.
That's amazing. Oh God, that's amazing.
It is the best website ever.
Well, this is kind
Actually, I think it started because someone wanted to do it for themselves. Like they wanted to have a something that compared all the prices for when they buy books, and people were obviously interested in it, so they put it online, and now they make money out of it. So
why not?
yeah, exactly.
I mean, people do it for things like flights and stuff.
Yeah.
As long as they don't screw up the flights the way that flight one. One of our co-workers booked flights a couple of weeks ago when we had to go to Brisbane. He booked his flights through one of those websites that do it for you, and he rocked up. The first one just kept getting delayed. That was Jetstar. That was their problem. But the second one, the flight home, he rocked up to get on his flight, and he had a printout that said his flight was at that time from them, and they'd actually booked the next day. So they'd actually somehow or rather changed the booking entirely on him, even though they'd sent him all of the correct details. So,
I dare say he'd be getting did he get a free flight back home?
he didn't get a free flight, but it was with Virgin, so they very nicely moved him, because Virgin's actually pretty good about that sort of stuff. But I'd imagine that any extra costs would have had to have come from the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking on Webjet, and I'm like, $20 to give you to tell me that I can get these flights. No, I just went to the Virgin website, and then I got free baggage. So
yeah, I must admit, when it comes to flights, I just go and check who I'm willing to fly with, because the other problem is I'm not willing to fly with Jetstar. I've been there too many times.
Yeah, I was looking at Jetstar. I'm like, well, I'm not taking Tiger.
No.
I was looking at Jetstar.
Oh, sorry. It was Tiger. No, sorry, it's Tiger that I won't fly with. Jetstar,
Yeah.
Tiger, definitely never.
Yeah. Yes. Everyone says don't do it. Don't.
No.
It doesn't matter how cheap it is. Just don't do it. But yeah, I was looking between Jetstar and Virgin, and ended up with Virgin.
Virgin, yeah. I will go Virgin. Virgin's my choice usually.
Yeah.
And then I'll go look Qantas and Jetstar to see what's around. But mostly I go Virgin because I've got my card with them too. Anyway, that's flight talk. That's totally off topic. I'm going to have to set up an account with these guys.
To Booker.
That's what I know. With Booker.
Yeah. Booker, that's the best site ever. Like, oh.
But it's such an easy thing to do, like to just collate the information from all the different websites.
Yeah.
It's such a smart thing.
I think there was something like at one point Amazon didn't work or something, because you know what Amazon are like.
But even if I didn't order through
the shipping or something doesn't work.
Even if I didn't order through this, though, if I just had the ability to look at the prices, that's all I really need most of the time.
But, I mean, if they have one of those referral links in their thing, I'd rather use it so they get some money so the site stays up and I can use it. But I don't know whether they do or not. But, yeah, if they do.
I just mean, like, as long as they're giving me the prices, I'm happy, really. And it's got the delivery as well, which is also very nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
See, when I click on the link for book depository, Booker comes up in the address bar, so I reckon they probably get some money out of it, and that's good because I really like their site, and I don't have to give them money for it, so it's perfect.
Yeah. As long as it's coming out of the money that's going towards the company, we don't see it.
Yep.
Oh, actually, that was, you know what's been going on in terms of Amazon with them demanding money from publishers to post their books out immediately?
Oh, I hadn't heard that one. No.
So you know what's going on with net neutrality in the US?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the same idea, but it's with books. And they've been doing it for quite a while, apparently. And I actually think that this wasn't a good example of it, because I ordered 2 books at the same time, and they dispatched one, and it took them a couple of days, which is the norm. It took them 5 days to dispatch this one.
Wow.
Which, is just long enough that it's like, oh, it's all right. But it's long enough that because they say that it's supposed to be done within 1 to 2 days, and I'm like, very, very suspicious.
Yeah. And I would have thought that the customers I mean, it's a really silly way to do business, because then when more people try and go away from Amazon and buy that publisher's books somewhere else, if they're going, well, Amazon's crap now, it takes them 5 days to find a book. That's what I think.
For me personally, it hasn't actually ticked me off enough yet. The problem is, for me, because it has to be posted all the way to Australia anyway, it makes very little difference.
Yes, exactly. To Americans, it makes a much bigger difference, yeah.
Not only that, I'm so built into the Amazon system when it comes to all of my ebooks and everything now that probably leaving is just more than I'm willing to do. And I think that and I'm actually a tech-savvy person who could do all of this quite easily if I so wanted. So if I'm not having trouble doing that, imagine how, other people who are just so used to using Amazon are going with that sort of idea. They're like, I don't care, Amazon's done, they're not even thinking about it.
Mm.
And then I found out that Amazon pays below minimum wage in the UK, and I'm like, oh God, I really need to move away from Amazon.
It's one of those examples of a corporation getting too big.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. But I've got the same problem with Apple products too. I'm so built into the environment now that the idea of moving out of it is a huge effort. So,
oh well.
I hate them all.
Yeah.
I hate them all. I suppose it's all reflective of everything that goes on in this book.
Yeah. Well, I think I might go to bed, guys. I'm like falling asleep, so.
I think it's probably time to sign off too. All right, guys. Thanks for a good chat. It was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll see you guys in
next. Probably a couple of weeks.
Yeah. If you do Vaginal Fantasy, I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you're not doing Vaginal Fantasy and you're back for Mistborn, I'll see you in 4 weeks.
Okay.
If you go on to Melbourne, see you in 2.5 weeks.
That too. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.